What's the difference between liberals and conservatives? That's what we're going to get into this video right here. Let's take a listen.
Liberal premise. What is the liberal premise?
I guess the Rousseau notion, that man is born free but is everywhere in chains, that the real problem of the world is that the institutions are wrong. If the institutions were right, then there is nothing in human nature that would cause us to be unhappy. It's the fact that we have the wrong institution.
What is the conservative premise?
That man is flawed from day one, and that there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. And whatever you do to deal with one of man's flaws, it creates another problem, but that you try to get the best trade-off you can get, and that's all you can hope for.
All right, so we heard both. I want us to go back one more time. I wanted to play it through before I interrupted, but now let's listen to the liberal premise, break that down, and then tap into the conservative premise and break that down, and let's see if we agree.
I guess the Rousseau notion, that man is born free but is everywhere in chains, that the real problem of the world is that the institutions are wrong. If the institutions were right, then there is nothing in human nature that would cause us to be unhappy. It's the fact that we have the wrong institutions.
So that's the liberal premise. And that's kind of like, as it pertains to now and relates to today's times, it's saying that there's always a system against you. And maybe that is why that victimhood mentality is something that liberals always push and progressives always push, because you have to blame an overall system as the reason why we're being oppressed, the reason why we're unhappy, the reason why we're unhealthy, the reason why all of these things are happening is more so looking externally as far as an entire system compared to looking internally at the actual people. Notice that he was talking about, it's not human nature to be unhappy. It's not human nature to be all these things. There's influences. So how does that resonate with y'all? Do you think that, one, that is the liberal premise of more so blaming systems? That would be my question for y'all. And then the second thing would be, do you think that it's justified? Do you think it's justified that, and I have to kind of ask myself, because as I was just explaining it, saying that, oh, it's the systems that do this. What are some of the things that we talk about on here? We talk about the Food and Drug Administration, right? It's a system. We talk about the healthcare industry and the system. We talk about all of these different areas that impact us, even from political standpoint. Oh, it's the system holding us back from these things. It's always the system. It's the system of white supremacy, a system. And for me, the less I embrace blaming a system for something, the more that I'm going to put an emphasis and onus on the things that I can do to operate either within that system or outside that system, but giving that system as least amount of credit as possible. I want to put the onus and emphasis on me. I want the responsibility to be on me. As soon as I start focusing on trying to blame a system, then I'm less focused on trying to advance my own things internally, to where the system may or may not even matter at that point. That's kind of how I look at it. So the liberal standpoint, according to Thomas Sowell, is to more so focus on blaming the system compared to taking responsibility and ownership as the individual. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Now let's see the conservative premise.
What is the conservative premise?
That man is flawed from day one. And that there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. And whatever you do to deal with one of man's flaws, it creates another problem, but that you try to get...
Man, there are no solutions, only trade-offs, and man is flawed. Is it a battle between reality and idealism? And is this what we see when we look at the current state of the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party? Is it reality with the conservatives that can actually stand on certain things that, like their values, when we talk about they have foundational values because it's conservative, so they can actually show their values because they're based on things that have happened, traditional. They're based on things that have already occurred, compared to what the Democrats push, which is more this idealism, this way of, oh, in an ideal world, this is how this would be. So until we have that ideal world, we need to complain at all costs. We need to keep firing back, and we need to never accept the way things are right now. Now, I'm not saying which one is the right way to lean. I think it's clear which one I'm going to choose because, like I said, I never want to spend time trying to control a system more than I can control myself. And I think that's what you get caught up in when you decide to not see it as a trade-off. But when you look at the two parties, yeah, it's almost, I see it as that, like idealism versus reality. And I guess the thing is, when one gets pushed in a direction too far, naturally, I guess things will be brought back. So let me look at it from a progressive standpoint. We've seen them push too far with certain things to where people are like, nah, the culture that this is creating, it's too much. That's not what we're looking for. But we also can see the conservative things getting pushed to a point where it goes too far. I mean, I don't know what I mean, I guess slavery was conservative. That was a thing that was done throughout the world, right? That was a traditional thing. But it just obviously it got to a certain point where it's like, hey, it's a little bit too extreme, or I don't know what it doesn't matter. No, I don't know what triggers it, right? That's entirely conversation. But when people's perception of it is, nah, this is no longer cool, now it starts to get reeled back in. So I'm back and forth on it, but I'm definitely choosing conservative.
Get the best trade-off you can get, and that's all you can hope for.
You get the best trade-off that you can get. Everything in life, in my opinion, is a trade-off. Is that how y'all see the world? Everything, in my opinion, is a trade-off. It doesn't matter whether you're trading time, whether you're trading money, whatever it is, it's a trade-off. Everything is a trade-off to where we are looking to get something looking to get a return on whatever output that we put into the world. Like whatever we put out, we're looking to get a return. That's just how it works. Now, I don't know if that's like, is that when we say, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is that the ideal way of looking at things? I don't know. And as I'm thinking in my head, whatever we put out, we're looking for a return. Doesn't that trace back to the golden rule of treating others the way that we would like to be treated? Because we're putting out a certain effort. We're putting out something in order to get something in return. So I don't know whether one's the negative way of looking at things. I guess what ultimately matters is the results. Which one is going to yield more positive results that align with what people are looking for. So I'm gonna look at the trade-offs, just because when you look at fighting systems, what I've seen just in certain things that I've observed, I don't know, I'd ask y'all the same thing. When you see the world, when you see fighting against systems, do you think people are more beneficial fighting the system, or people are more beneficial in using that fight that they had fighting the system to just change things within their own lives and to work internally to impact the external, compared to the opposite, trying to impact the external and ultimately impacting the internal? All right, so let's move on. Let's move on to the next video that I wanted to show with him. And it's Thomas Sowell discussing the teachers unions and how they impact certain communities. It's Dak. Just want to thank you for checking out our video and visiting the OG Network. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure that you give us a like. And if you're looking to join a community of inspired individuals striving for purposeful abundance, subscribe. And if you're feeling real generous, share the video with some friends and family. All right, I'll see y'all soon. Ew.